Hello, the purpose of this lecture video is to reinforce what we have discovered in class recently with regards to our new predominant harmony, the augmented sixth chord. We will review the three types, the labeling for each, and then some of the extended uses of these harmonies. As we experienced in class, the real crux of the augmented sixth chord is its powerful drive to the dominant with the double leading tone feature, the bass stepping down from a half step above scale degree 5, and an upper voice raising up to scale degree 5 from a half step below. So we have lay to so in the bass and fi to so somewhere above. By now, we are familiar with an array of predominants, such as the subdominant 4 in the minor mode. And oftentimes in minor modes, when we have 4 going, we see 4 going to 6 by way of first inversion, especially in the step descent bass. I might also note there, that's the Phrygian half cadence, of course, the expanding motion going into the dominant between the bass and the soprano. Bass going lay to so, and the soprano going fa to so. And of course you recognize that as being very similar to our augmented sixth chord, with the only difference being the soprano is fi to so. So the Phrygian half, the Italian augmented sixth chord, and of course those predominants built off of the supertonic. And also we can perhaps look at the tonicization of 5 with its own dominant, so the 5 of 5 chords. So here we are in C minor, and our new harmony, the Neapolitan 6, which is built off of flat 2, always in first inversion, or mostly in first inversion. There it is. So we see this expansion of chromaticism leading into the dominant now. We've had diatonic predominants, and now we've had chromatic predominants, chromatic alterations to create a dominant of the dominant. And that extends, of course, with our augmented sixth chords, as we've experienced. Take just a moment to review the chart here and pay special attention to the differences. Of course, remembering that with the Italian sixth chord, we double the tonic. All right, let's just review the ingredients here. We're in the key of G minor. We have a half step above scale degree 5, or 6 going to 5 in the bass. In one of the upper voices, we have a raised 4 going to 5, so fi to so, and then we also pair that with tonic, so scale degree 1, in this case G. And there's your Italian sixth chord. Remember, the G is doubled. You can see it there doubled between the tenor and the alto, and they both resolve in different directions. Jump over to C with the French 4-3 augmented sixth chord. It's the Italian sixth plus scale degree 2, so we have G in the tenor and the A in the alto. It creates a little bit more of a crunch. And then backtrack to B with the German 6-5 chord, and we have the same half step interval above and below scale degree 5. We have tonic, in the tenor, and then the alto is on scale degree 3. And this one always resolves to a cadential 6/4 chord. So still resolving directly to a dominant harmony, but just with the non-chord tones that step down to 5/3. And so our label. Here's the Italian. Here's a version of an Italian sixth. Okay, this is in the key of C. And this is leading to G. And our label is IT, the nationality for which for some reason it belongs to, and the 6 illustrating the augmented 6 interval, most striking interval there. And with the French augmented 6 chord, we abbreviate FR, and with the figured bass 4/3, illustrating the 4th above the bass, and the 3rd, or down an octave, and finally with the German augmented 6 chord, we label it GER 6 for the augmented 6th, and 5 for the interval, distinguishing it most from the Italian 6. So what of this cadential 6/4 resolution that has to happen? Why? Well, let's listen to a resolution going straight to 5. Which may not bother us too much with our 20th century ears, but you may have picked up on the parallel fifths here between the bass and the alto. Listen again. They are separated a little bit by more than an octave, but they're still there nonetheless. And as we saw on Thursday, I believe, we avoid that by delaying one of the voices, or two of the voices' resolutions. So the bass is stepped down. We've already got the flat 6 to 5 motion. And then the upper voices resolve later, avoiding the parallel fifths. Of particular note to the German augmented 6 chord is its enharmonic variety. So here we have the German 6/5 chord. And when it steps down, we hear all of the resolutions just as it should, going to the dominant, the cadential 6/5, 6/4 rather, to 5/3, to 1. But if I was to enharmonically transpose the F sharp to a G flat, you'd notice that we have a major minor 7th chord. We have a dominant 7th chord with the root of A flat, C, E flat, G flat. And so if we're in the key of C minor, this is actually the 5 of flat 2. This is the dominant of the Neapolitan chord, which is rather interesting. And its context changes by how the composer uses it. Quite surprising to hear a dominant behaving just as it should in the context of the old harmony. So let's see how composers can play with this idea. So here we have a a piano piece by Beethoven, Opus 129, which he subtitled Rage on the Account of a Lost Penny. And as you can see, we have an opening, well, not a theme here at the top in G major. And then in the fourth system, on the fourth measure, we have the same theme transposed up a half step. Whoop, sorry, Beethoven, I owe you a few notes on that one. And as you can see, the theme is transposed up a half step. It is acting in A flat major. The harmony is supporting that. So Beethoven has modulated up a half step from G major to A flat. Quite a remarkable feat, because it's hard to hear that happening. And let's see why that is. So I'm going to play this slowly. It's usually played at a very brisk tempo. I'm going to play it slowly, and I'm going to play a simplified version of the left hand. But you'll get the idea. So it's pretty remarkable if you just sit back and listen to it. He modulates up a half step, and it's quite a smooth modulation. You don't really realize it's happening. So let's take a look at where this happens, and we start to see some transition material actually in the second system on the third measure. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to play slowly, and I want you to keep your eyes peeled for some of our new harmonies, see if we can explain some of the chromaticism, see if we can find an augmented sixth chord of some sort. So again, this is pick up to the third measure of the second system. All right, did you see it? So if we're looking for an Italian or a German or a French augmented sixth chord, we need to hypothesize what notes we're looking for. So in the bass, we're definitely going to see that half step above the dominant. So the opening key is in G, the dominant would be D, so we're looking for an E flat. You may pause the video right now and see if you can find it yourself. So here we have a fresh copy. And yes, you found it. It's right there. There's the E flat in the bass, which is a half step above the dominant. And then in what we might describe as the alto, we have a C sharp, half step below the dominant. And now we're looking for the tonic, which is G, and the soprano. So it looks like we have three notes there on that first beat, which would be our Italian augmented sixth chord, right? Well, wait just a second. Look at the second beat, and we have that B flat. So let's see, that a B flat would be scale degree 3 in the key of G. So that's our, it's a German sixth chord. So 6/5 chord. So do we label this? Is this alternating between Italian six and then on beat 2 it's German six? Let's listen to it and see if we hear a harmony change. Not really. We remember with keyboard music, especially with arpeggiation, we tend to lump things together. We lump beats together. And as I said, this piece of music is usually performed at a very fast tempo, very vivace. Also, in the measure prior to that, on beat 2, Beethoven introduces the B flat there. So it's already in our mind's ear, and therefore I think it's best to label that whole measure as a German 6/5 chord. Just listen to it once more time from the transitional material, starting at the third measure of the second line. And I'm going to slow down when we get to the German 6/5 chord. Oh, we have the same harmony here now. But wait, this time there's a difference. Look at our first red arrow where we have E flat, G, C sharp, and a B flat. And now let's look at this second. Sonically, it sounds exactly the same. Tell me, which measure am I playing? Am I playing C sharp or D flat? Of course, we can't tell. But the way the second appearance of this harmony functions is much different than the way the first one did. On the first one, we led to the dominant. If you look in the last measure of the third system, Beethoven resolves to the dominant, just as a good augmented sixth chord should. And then on the second measure of the fourth system, Beethoven repeats the measure again. And of course, that should be no surprise. We've already seen that. And with the D flat, we now have a chord E flat, G, B flat, and D flat. Of course, that's a 5 of A flat, or in the key of G, 5 of flat 2. So just take a moment to compare these two harmonies, both in the repertoire and then in the simplified version to the right. And of course, the only way to tell the difference, if you're listening, is by the way they resolve. The German augmented sixth chord resolves to a cadential 6/4 harmony, and the 5 of flat 2 resolves to flat 2 as a dominant. Listen one more time to this excerpt and see if you can hear the transition. Ask yourself this question: which of these is the pivot chord, the first one or the second one? Each time I listen to this piece, I hear the 5/7 of A flat transitioning stronger and stronger. And you may listen to the piece a few times, hopefully by a better pianist than I, and hopefully you'll hear the same thing. So which of these two are the pivot chord? It's actually going to be the second one. Why? The second one sonically is going to sound exactly like the augmented sixth chord. Functionally, though, it's preparing us as its dominant to the A flat chord, arriving here in the, the fifth measure of the third system. So as the German sixth, it has the 5/7 of A flat. Pretty slick way to modulate up a half step. Finally, I just wanted you to take a quick look at a way to expand this harmony. By now, this should be very similar motion to you. This is how all passing 6/4 chords work. I'm expanding one singular harmony through an inversion, usually root position and first inversion. So just take a listen. Here's tonic. Here's our German augmented sixth chord, resolving to a passing 6/4. So the voice exchange, the soprano went F sharp to A flat, and the bass went A flat to F sharp, and dominant. So this is a very popular way of doing this, expanding this harmony, especially with Russian composers. It's almost synonymous with Tchaikovsky's music. Sounds like it's right out of the Fourth Symphony. Anyways, I hope this has helped shed some light on some of these new harmonies that we've experienced. There should be a short online quiz available to you on Monday, and I would appreciate it if you would take that prior to the exam on Thursday, November 9th. Look forward to seeing you on Tuesday.